Okay, am I tuned into whatever their name is? And then the rods will go whoop, open. And then while they're open, I'll say, show me no. And then they'll and close again. Okay, am I tuned in? I'm a human tuner. You could say that you're counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 6, 1, and 1, 11, 12, 1, 14, 15, 1, 17, 18, 1, 20, 21, 1. Because 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, all reduced to 1. Ad infinitum, it never ends through this process. Every third number in the number line reduces to 1. I'm a human tuner. So this 369 is like an expression of the Trinity in number. So if you went like you Google the term Solfeggio and you land on Wikipedia, you'll get a page that talks about the hymn to St. John the Baptist from about 1,000 years ago, where supposedly it was the first time notated in music the idea of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti was ever put forth. I don't really think that's the same thing.
Oh yeah, what's happening? What's going on, Fire Tribe? Welcome to Rising from the Ashes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Isn't it so great to be existing in one way or another? In the here and the now, or the there and the then. The continuance of existence, forever and always. Yes. Today's conversation is great with our Buddy Chance Garton from the Innerverse Podcast. We're going into a great presentation that he has ready for us on the Solfeggio scale. A bit of a deeper dive into some of the science behind it and some of the numerology that goes into it. And it's beautiful. So this is a great conversation. Thank you guys again for tuning in. We are getting ready to gear up for our themed months of 2023. If you guys have been watching the Sunday Slow Burns on the YouTube channel, where we give a lot more current news updates and things like that. But we're going to be diving into the Celtic mysteries, the Irish history, the Northern European British Isles history, and all of that stuff for the first few months of the year. It's going to be a deep dive. And so strap in, get ready to talk in Irish accents because it's going down. We are getting to the bottom of it. We are connecting ancient Ireland to ancient Egypt, and we are getting some answers to these questions that we have. And without further ado, some good old house cleaning, if you will, podcast style. You guys should definitely join the Telegram group chat. If you don't have Telegram on your device, I highly suggest it. Instagram, trash. Facebook, trash. The only thing on Facebook that's good is Facebook Marketplace. Everybody knows that. You buy and sell cars there. It's freaking sweet. But Telegram is a great platform, social media style, that's not so social media-y, and it's group chat. So we have a Rising from the Ashes page, and there's a bunch of amazing humans on there that participate in conversation. We get the ball rolling. We say things. We share books. We share music. We share stories, and of course we share feelings. It's amazing, and I want to thank everybody on the Telegram because you guys are awesome, and you are my true friends. I love it. Dan loves it too. If you want to support us, please go and grab a subscription at Patreon. Check out the bonus content there. If you would like to buy yourself a sweet t-shirt or a backpack, a coffee mug, yoga mat, or a bucket hat, you can do that with the link in the description to the merch shop. Guess what? We got sweet designs. Yes, Dan has his very amazing and dope design, Lost My Train of Thought. Grab yours with the link in the description and support Rising from the Ashes because it costs a little bit of money to do this, but we love to do it and we love you. So there we go. And of course, you should definitely get some psychic and clairvoyant work from our friend at Vision Switch, SABIAH SOGARD. She's been on this show before. You've heard me talk about her before. She is amazing. I have gotten past life readings from her, which literally made me cry while sitting on a stump on the hill behind my house. It was amazing. I've had lots of psychic hygiene. She is my psychic hygiene practitioner, and I couldn't love her more. So that's why we promote her on the show. She's giving you guys a discount to her services. And I know that some of you have reached out to her, and thank you guys so much. Her heart is full, as is mine. I hope that we can continue this forever because there's so much energy that gets trapped in our energy, and energies commingle with each other. But you have to feel your own energy and not feel the pressing weight of others. And it's a constant cycle. It's a constant cycle to remember to ground down, to clear everything out. So that's why we have community to keep us here. Without further ado, we're going to get into some RFTA news. Now, we don't have a special guest today, but I do have a special book that I'm going to be reading from. It's called The Sacred Plant Medicine: Explorations in the Practice of Indigenous Herbalism. And I'm going to read 4 passages about 4 plants with the 4 sacred directions, their associations. And I'll tell you what, this book is amazing, so I want to share it all with you. Here we go. We're going to start with the pasky flower, an herb of the south. The botanical name for the pasky flower is Anemone patens, or pulsatilla patens. The Dakotas call it Hokshi Chepka Wacha, the twin flower. The Lakotas call it Hoksi Kepsa, the child's navel. Blackfeet call it old man or napi. Omaha and Ponca call it little buffalo medicine, Te Zinga Makan. It was one of the sacred power medicines of the Omahas and the Poncas, and esteemed very highly. Among the latter two tribes, the right to use the pasque flower was limited to the medicine men of the Tesin gens. The lilac-colored pasque flower is covered with a soft, hairy down, usually producing only one or two flowers from its small root. First and foremost, it is an herb to calm and soothe the nervous system. It is of the benefit when under extreme stress and overloaded with worry, or feeling extremely angry or fearful. This herb soothes and calms and helps release tension. It is food for the nerves. It changes the energetic vibrations of the nervous impulses in the body to ones that are more childlike and happy and free from care, but in touch with caring and love. It is specific for use in ovarian pain and extremely good for neck and head pain, ear and sinus pain. Though I have not found it to be true, many herbalists have reported that the fresh flowers can cause blistering to the skin on prolonged contact. Because of this, the plant was traditionally used as a counter irritant. That is, it is placed on one part of the body, which it irritates, and reduces inflammation or irritation in another part of the body. One such use is the treatment of swollen joints in the hands. Placed on the knuckles, it would irritate the skin but relieve swelling in the underlying joints. Large quantities of the tincture can cause vomiting when taken internally, and I have noticed feelings of nausea when taking more than 10 to 15 drops of the tincture in 1 hour. I have found this dosage of the tincture to be quite effective in helping alleviate extreme stress or acute pain. Because of the strength of this herb and the possible adverse side effects, it should be used with caution. In European tradition, the anemone flower was said to have sprung from the drops of blood of the Greek god Adonis, which fell as he lay dying. Adonis was beloved by Aphrodite for his great beauty, and she begged that he allowed to live again. Zeus decreed that Adonis' time was to be divided between himself, Aphrodite on earth, and Persephone, the queen of the underworld. He was celebrated as a god of plants. His death and resurrection represents the seasonal growth of plants and the regeneration of nature. The Greek physician Pliny noted that the flower was named after the wind, anemos, because the flower opened only when the wind blew. And pasque flowers does tend to grow only in places where the wind blows. In the mountains around Boulder, Colorado, the pasque flower is the second flower of spring, coming after spring beauty. By the time the other flowers come up, the pasque flower has become like the head of white hair. To many people in many cultures, this plant represents the beginning of life in spring, the youth of humankind, and the full cycle of life in growing old. This plant has the effect, when taking it as a medicine, to calm and soothe and heal the nerves. The sensation is very similar to the feelings of childlikeness and youthfulness, which are common in childhood. In the medicine wheel, it is an herb of the south, of the newness and springtime of life, an herb of youth. When an old Dakota first finds one of these flowers in the springtime, it reminds him of his childhood, when he wandered over the prairie hills at play, as free from care and sorrow as the flowers and the birds. He sits down near the flower on the lap of Mother Earth, takes out his pipe and fills it with tobacco. Then he reverently holds the pipe toward the earth, then toward the sky, then toward the north, toward the east, the south, and the west. And after this, an act of silent invocation, he smokes. And while he smokes, he meditates upon the changing scenes of his lifetime, his joys, his sorrows, his hopes, his accomplishments, his disappointments, and the guidance which unseen powers have given him in bringing him thus far on the way. And he is encouraged to believe that he will be guided to the end. And after finishing his pipe, he rises and plucks the flower and carries it home to show his grandchildren, singing as he goes the song of the twin flower, which he learned as a child, and which he now in turn teaches to his grandchildren. The song of the pasque flower. I wish to encourage the children of other flower nations now appearing all over the face of the earth. So while they awaken from sleeping and come up from the heart of the earth, I am standing here old and gray. Osha, an herb of the West. The botanical name for Osha is Linguisticum porteri. Its use by bears is legendary among many cultures and is often referred to as bear medicine. The common Mexican term for the plant is chuchupate. Is said to be an ancient Aztec term meaning bear medicine. Early pioneers in Colorado called it Colorado cough root because of its effectiveness for that condition. Almost everybody just calls it Osha. Osha is one of the primary herbal medicines you can use if you live in the Rocky Mountain bioregion. It is limited to range to Mexico, Colorado, New Mexico, and portions of Utah and Wyoming. The plant possesses strong antiviral properties and should be used at the first minimal signs of flu or cold. It is extremely good for sore throats and bronchial inflammations and will soothe almost immediately. The tea, powdered root, or tincture is antibacterial and excellent on skin wounds to prevent infection. It is especially good in cough syrups. A simple syrup recommended by Michael Moore in Medicinal Plants of the Mountain West is a grounded root mixed with twice the amount of honey, steeped for 1 hour, then pressed out when cool. But in any cough syrup recipe is excellent. Osha is also excellent for stomach indigestion. I have found it very useful for cramping and pain associated with the beginnings of ulceration in stomach or duodenum, like its relatives angelica and cow parsnip, but its primary usefulness in disease is associated with its antiviral and antibacterial properties. The part of the plant used medicinally is its root. The seeds and leaves make an excellent culinary herb, similar to chervil. This plant can be confused with a very poisonous one, poison hemlock. The primary way to tell the difference is the root itself. Osha's root is quite hairy and possesses a strong smell, similar to celery. The inner pith is yellow and has a somewhat soapy feeling. But once you sit with this plant and get to know it, it is impossible to mistake it. Until then, it is important to be certain that what you have is Osha. You only get one mistake with hemlock. The plant's leaves look similar, somewhat like parsley. It can stand 2 or 3 feet tall and possess characteristics umbrella-like as its flower stalk and seed pod, hence its family name, Umbelliferia. In digging the roots, a shovel is necessary. They can be stubborn, strong, and often grow in aspen groves among the aspen roots, which makes digging all the more difficult. OSHA is present in the mountains from about 7,000 feet on up. This is one of the few herbs you can dry in the sun without harming it. It will last for many years dried and will not rot because of the potent antibacterial and antiviral substances in the root. OSHA does not like to be domesticated and is hard, if not impossible, to grow under cultivation. It is a plant of the wild. OSHA is a plant of the West. The looks within place. This is not an herb that gives itself to others in a kind and caretaking manner. It is an herb for warriors, for those who must go into the darkness and face their own demons. It is primarily a male herb, though like all herbs, it is also useful for women. If you sit in meditation with OSHA, do not make the mistake of focusing on its leaves and the flowers or seeds. Its life and power is in its root. The delicate leaves are misleading, so when you sit with it, let your mind travel down along its stem and under the ground where the OSHA lives. There you will see it like a bear curled in its den. When you call on OSHA to become your plant ally, you must have your own warrior energy available. You do not beg OSHA to come and be with you. You ask it from a place of strength and power. When OSHA knows you are a warrior too, it will be with you and help you. For people who are struggling in their own internal demons, who are trying to develop their own warrior strength, for those who fight with the darkness within, them I give OSHA. You must be willing to become a person of passion and strong feeling to work with OSHA. You must allow your rage and power to come out, to draw the line in the sand and say no more, no farther. OSHA goes to the root of the matter. It is a plant that helps those who are going through the destructuring. It understands the stripping away process necessary to deep transformation. It is for those who struggle to learn the truths of the bear. Much of the energy of OSHA is bear energy. Bears respond to it as a kind of ursine catnip. They will roll on it and cover themselves with its scent. Males have been seen to dig up roots and offer them to females as part of courting. When a bear comes newly out of hibernation, it will eat OSHA if it can find it to cleanse its digestive system. The bear will chew the root into a watery paste, then spit it on its paws and wash its face with the herb. It will then spray the herb over its body. The herb possesses strong action against bodily parasites. How did the bears learn these things? No one knows, but the herbal knowledge of the bear is legendary in all cultures. The bear is considered a primary healing animal because it uses plants for its own healing. Any plant that is considered bear medicine is a primary and potent plant medicine. The bear is the archetype of the healing animal, and there are many stories about its healing power. There is one story about a village on Turtle Island a long time ago. An old man came to the village. He was covered with sores and he smelled. He was very ill. He had no possessions and no food. He came to the first lodge in the village and asked the peoples there, "Will you help me? I need a place to stay and some food, and I'm very hungry." The people drove him off, fearing he would infect their children. They did not want such an old and sick man in their lodge. The man then went from the lodge to lodge in the village and each time was driven off. Sick and in despair, the old man came to the last lodge in the village. It was set off a little from the others and sheltered under the branches of a great tree. The old man approached the lodge and called out, asking for help. A woman saw that he was sick and in need. She brought him into the lodge, fed him, and gave her a place to rest. He ate and sank onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. The next day the old man was much improved, but still too weak to go on. He ate what the woman gave him and rested. Upon walking the next day, however, he was much worse. The woman applied what knowledge of healing she had, but to no avail. Each day the old man became sicker and sicker. At last, having exhausted her healing knowledge, the woman knew the man would die, and he knew it too, and lifted his hand and called her over. "I was told in a dream from Spirit," he said, "that there is a certain plant that grows in the forest that can heal me. Spirit told me to tell you of it." The old man described it exactly, saying, "Go and fetch it." The woman went into the forest and found the plant, growing where he had described it, picked it with prayers and ceremony, and returned. The old man told her then of prayers and ceremonies and preparation, and how it was to be made into medicine. She did these things, and the old man became well. Each day he grew stronger and stronger. But before too long he began to get ill again, and the woman tried all her healing knowledge, and again it was to no avail. The old man just got sicker. Then again, when he was on the point of death, he called her over and told her for the second dream that he had from Spirit about a plant that could heal him. Again she followed his instructions, and again he was healed. This happened over and over and over again for a year, and in the end, after taking the final plant into his body, the old man grew well. He did not get sick again, and eventually he rose from his bed and went to the door. He turned to the woman and said, "Spirit told me that there was one in this village who was to be taught how to heal people. I was sent to find you and teach you all I know of healing, and I have done so." And turning once again, the old man went through the door of her lodge and into the light. The woman ran to the door and looked out, and as she saw the old man pass into the forest, he turned into a huge bear and walked on. And this way healing came to the people. As two shields, the Sioux medicine man noted, "The bear is the only animal which is dreamed of as offering to give herbs for the healing of man. The bear is not afraid of either animals or men, and it is considered ill-tempered, and yet it is the only animal which has shown us this kindness. Therefore the medicines received from the bear are supposed to be especially effective." Many songs of herbal healing came from the bear. Here is another song from the bear that the Sioux healer Acute. Osha's taste and smell are very strong. Pick its hairy root and feel its power. Taste a bit of it. Its taste will explode in your mouth and fill your body. It is a good herb to carry with you in the medicine pouch. Usnea, an herb of the north. In Latin, the various species of Usnea are called Usnea barbata, Usnea longissima, Usnea berta, Usnea florida, and Usnea serratina. Because of its appearance, the common name of Usnea is old man's beard. The Dakota called Usnea chan wizivwe. This had been variously translated as "on the north side of the tree," or "spirit of the north wind." Usnea is a major herb for treatment of mucous membrane systems, such as lungs, intestines, throat, sinuses, urinary, and reproductive tract. Usnea species grows throughout the northern United States. They can be recognized as a gray-green moss growing on fruit trees, fir, oak, and pine. All the species contain both antibiotic and antifungal compounds. They are usually tufted or hairy in appearance. On some trees in wetter areas, it may hang in long, massive strands. In Colorado, it generally grows in small tufts at the base of pines and firs, and it can be tufted up to the size of a kiwi fruit and may cover an entire stumps or dying trees. The herb is composed of two plants in symbiosis. The outer portion, the cortex, contains the antibiotic compounds, and it's gray-green in color. The inner portion, the thallus, is visible as a thin white thread inside the cortex if you pull a piece of usnea apart. The thallus contains immune-stimulating substances. The thallus is elastic when wet, somewhat like a rubber band, and stiff when dry. Usnea is round, not flat, and it covers by minute projections, papillate. It looks kind of hairy or fuzzy. Powdered or whole, it can be applied to skin infections with excellent results. Tinctured in alcohol, eaten whole or as a tea, it can be taken for internal problems, from tuberculosis to acute bacterial infections. As a douche, it can be used to treat trichomonas and yeast infections. Herbalists generally use usnea clinically for fungus infections, acute bacterial infections, lupus, trichomonas, mastitis, vasculosis, and tropical ulcers, second and third degree burns, plastic surgery, athlete's foot, ringworm, urinary tract infections, colds, flu, bronchitis, pneumonia, tuberculosis, sinus infections, staph infection, dysentery, and streptococcus. Usnea species are very effective in the treatment of tuberculosis. In fact, usnic acid, one active component in usnea, completely inhibited the growth of tuberculosis in dilutions of 1 to 20,000 and weakened their growth at 1 to 200,000. Other sources put the effectiveness of usnic acid at 1 part per million, bringing it to the effective range of streptomycin. From this perspective, effective doses of usnea tincture would range from 2 to 7 drops 3 times a day. Effective treatment would need to last 6 months. Usnea has a broad use across many cultures the world over, from general, a wound healer, the Canary Islands, to Italy, to antiseptic in Argentina, the antibacterial agent in Saudi Arabia, to anti-tumor agent in Chile. Usnea has also been used culturally in delayed menstruation in both Korea and Arabic countries. It is used during pregnancy, is contraindicated. Usnea is poorly water soluble, so that use as a whole herb or as an alcohol tincture is preferred. However, it is traditionally been used as a tea or an infusion. Some of the beneficial components are available in a water medium. Given usnea's prevalence in North America, it is surprising that there is little information about it on its use by North American tribes. All other world cultures seem to know of it and use it for a variety of complaints, physical and spiritual. It was used for abscesses by the Kiowa and as a dye by many other tribes. Usnea represents the north, the place of gray hairs. It maintains the lung system of the planet. When Usnea came to me, personified as a young man, and spoke to me of its uses, it told me that there was healing qualities that were specific for the lung system of the planet, the trees. Its use for the people was secondary to this primary function. This was the first time I realized that plants provided medicinal actions with the ecosystem, that they evolved and developed to help the Earth ecosystem, Gaia, maintain a healthy balance within itself. I realized at that time that it was only because we are a part of the ecosystem that the plants also work for us as healing agents. Usnea fight off infection in the trees and thus serves as a crucial function in maintaining rainfall patterns. A potent aspect of Usnea's power is that of the power of the tree. There is an ancient compact between Usnea and the trees, and coming into contact with the deeper spiritual aspects of Usnea, one makes contact with ancient powers that existed a long time before humans. As my relationship with Usnea deepened and I traveled more into the spiritual territory that Usnea inhabits, I found that unlike the Pasque flower, Osha, and Angelica, Usnea's territory wasn't as easy to understand. It is less familiar to my human sensibilities. These landmarks make less sense, and it is more disorienting. I found that to make deep relationship with Usnea, I had to first make relationship with the deeper spiritual aspects of the tree and ask permission to have relationship with Usnea. Grandfather Usnea, you stride from the north with long legs, and I call on you in behalf of all human beings requesting your teachings. Remind us of the interconnectedness of all things. Speak to us of the ancient pact between yourself and the trees, and bring us your healing powers. Angelica, an herb of the East. The botanical names for Angelica species are Angelica archangelica, A. pinnati, Angelica grayi, Angelica hendersoni. But Angelica's common names reveal the sacred uses to which it has been put: high angel or high angelica, archangel, masterwort. Wort meaning root or herb from the Old English wort, i.e. root or herb of the master. The names refer primarily to its angelic qualities. The Creek Indians called it notosa. Angelica is used by herbalists as a reproductive normalizer to stimulate delayed menstruation for cramps, reproductive or intestinal, to normalize digestion and relieve flatulence, as an expectorant during coughs and colds, as a diaphoretic and a diuretic, to cure urinary tract infections. It is a urinary antiseptic. It has some use in relieving joint inflammations. It will stimulate the body to fight off viral infections. Though not so well as its relative Osha, the part used is primarily the root, though the seeds work very well for stomach nausea. The stems and leaves have a weaker action. In Europe, they are used candied as a dessert, and to some extent in the liquor industry as flavoring. Angelica's root can be eaten in its raw, whole form, simply carrying a portion of the root and nibbling at it from time to time. Generally, the root is used as a tincture, 30 to 60 drops up to 4 times a day. The seeds can also be tinctured, 10 to 30 drops up to 4 times a day, or several seeds can be taken in the raw form and chewed. Because Angelica and Osha are in the same family as hemlocks, they bear a slight similarity to some of them. Osha can sometimes be confused with poison hemlock, Angelica with water hemlock. The root, and to a lesser degree the seeds and leaves, have a unique and readily identifiable smell, slightly celery-like, but uniquely that of Angelica. After picking, if you run your fingers along its cut root, its interior has a slippery, soap-like feel. The leaves are large and divided into smaller ones and lengthened, oval in shape, perhaps 3 to 4 inches long. Since Angelica can be confused with water hemlock, which is quite poisonous, certain identification is an absolute must. The plant often grows up to 6 feet tall, with an impressive stalk, topped with characteristic umbel of flowers and seeds. Over 18 American Indian tribes used Angelica species for medicine in a similar manner to that of Western medicinal use. I have found it to be of particular use in normalizing menstruation, relieving cramping and nausea. Its use during pregnancy is contradicted. The Creek Indians chewed the root and swallowed the juice, or smoked it with a dry tobacco for disorders of the stomach. Coming upon Angelica, I am always struck by the feeling of femaleness and strong purity of spirit that the plant emanates. It is a shy plant, rarely in great abundance. It is a plant of water, always growing near a water source. In sitting in meditation with the spirit of Angelica, it is clear that the plant sits in balance between heaven and earth. The powerful hollow stem rises up and carries the great spirit energy between the realms. Many shamans have carried the stem of Angelica as a staff to help them maintain balance while traveling in the spirit worlds. The spirit of Angelica is strong and may offer help to women who have an empty place within them, like the Angelica stem. Go and sit with the plant, and after making a relationship with it, ask, with the part of you that is empty, that it come into place and reside there as an ally. Each plant carries a special spirit energy that can help when used as a spirit medicine. Angelica is a plant of the East, and it embodies those qualities. It carries within it vision, wisdom, and enlightenment, and mature balance. Its main strength and power is that of the mature spiritual and emotional balance and strength in the face of conflicting demands from the environment, whether spiritual, emotional, or physical. I use this plant often in helping women who feel out of balance with themselves, suffer from hysterical, asthma, or whose reproductive organs are out of balance, who tend to lose themselves in others, suffer from anorexia nervosa, and for those who need a model of spiritual balance and strength. And using the plant as a spirit medicine, it is not enough to just ingest it as a medicine. One must sit in relation with the plant and have it agree to help. One must develop a family relationship with the plant until it becomes as a sister. Well, there we have it. An incredible list of 4 plants that have immense sacred healing powers. Our ancestors all over the world have knowledge of these plant medicines, and the earth provides it for us. And in turn, we take care and protect the earth and make sure these plants continue to grow. By learning about them, by observing them, by speaking with them and sitting with them, and slowing it down. And I want to let everybody know that in the beginning, I wasn't sure if Dan was going to make it onto this chat, but he does make it. And so he makes it in about halfway through, which is fantastic. So need not worry, it is not just a solo show. We get extra juicy when Dan pops in. Here we go. Without further ado, get ready for today's interview with Chance Garton on the Solfeggio scale. All right. Cheers. Rising from the ashes. Hey everybody, welcome to Rising from the Ashes. It is the homie Romy here yet again on a solo journey down the wondrous, mysterious path of esoteric and beautiful conversations. Without Dan, he's left me high and dry yet again, but I think I will weep about it later. Anyways, he might pop in. Today we are speaking with a wonderful man, a dowser of sorts. I've heard him talk about the different types of dowsing and the tuning fork processes, and it's very, very interesting, especially after we just talked to Marty Kane and dropped an episode about dowsing and geomancy. So it's going to be cool to kind of have these topics intertwine. Chance, amongst being a beautiful healer, is a podcaster, researcher, and a decoder of the mysteries. And I've done other shows with him. You guys know him, and to know him is to love him. Chance Garton is here. Hello, sir.
Hey, man. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. And do miss Dan. I do. You know, the whole reason we got a show booked was because me and Dan had a lovely phone call a while back. And we're like, we need to put something on the calendar. So I do hope he pops in, but it's okay if he doesn't. Maybe he'll check this out later and he's with us in spirit. You know, Dan's the man. So
he is the man.
Not to lament, not to begin this festive conversation with lamentations, but Romy, and you're enough fun, you know, just you. So I've been looking forward to it all day, dude.
Nice.
And we're gonna do some exploration. I guess I'll tell people my channel is called Innerverse.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Innerverse Podcast. I've been today cooking up a lot of merch. I've been an artist on the side for, I don't know, 10 years. So I've got a lot of freaking art that I never really, you know, I like for a while I was making art with the intent of like, I'm going to be I don't know what you call it, like professional artist that gets paid to do it.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, podcasting became more the thing, but I have this big stockpile of art, and I'm finally getting around to turning it into cool, proper merch. And I'm having a lot of fun with that, like the tweaking of the, you know, the design to make it fit the sleeves and then the front and back of the shirt and all the little aspects of the different things you can do with merch. So
can you describe one of your new shirts? What is can you give us a description of what they might look like? Because this sounds fun. I like this.
Yeah, you know, maybe I should can I just screen share it?
Screen share it.
I'm working on.
Yes. If you guys are on the Patreon, that's where the video version of this episode's going to be. If you guys are listening, we'll try to give you some descriptions, you know. But that's
exactly, yeah. So the store is innerversemerch.com, but it's like a Teespring, you know. It's one of those, but I've only managed to get a few things up there, but since we're talking about it and you're graciously letting me self-promote, I'm going to screen share it. So
yeah, man. I love it. Here's oh, shit. That is dope. Wow.
Yeah, I'm calling it the Everything's Buddha tee. So sure to be helpful when you want to start conversations about how every savior deity is actually Buddha. And you got Buddha on the front, and then, you know, your nice fallen angel on the back.
That's a hermetic shirt.
So yeah, repurposing some of my artwork to be clothing is pretty fun. I put one into a puzzle today.
What?
This is a 500
puzzle?
Piece puzzle.
What?
I know, you can do a lot on Teespring. So thank you YouTube for finally monetizing me after 6 years so that I can link a Teespring to my YouTube channel. And you know, maybe they aren't so bad after all. Just kidding, they're terrible. But yoga mat, you know, you might want this, Romy. Yoga mat. Look at this. Whoa. Inspired by the AquaCure. This design was inspired by the AquaCure machine, George Wiseman's device. So
how was it inspired by the AquaCure? I'm very curious.
It's because it's derived from the art I made to be the background motion graphics for the episode I did with George Wiseman. So,
oh, nice. And it's got the aqua vibes, the color, and yes, I love it.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, that's a great kickoff, I think.
Oh, dude, thank you for letting me promo some merch, dude.
Of course, man. Hey, you know, I hope that people would go out and support you and get a puzzle. Do that, have that puzzle in their bookshelf where they have puzzles and pop it out at a party, man. Like that's what it's all about. You know, like doing this type of content creation We give a lot of very great free stuff away because that's what it's about. It's about community, and those people pay it forward when they know that the hard work is put in. So, anywho's, it is all here for you. This is your day, the day to shine. Happy birthday! I love you so much. So I wanted to
I want to say thanks to everyone just for listening, though.
Yes.
Listening is a great gift, you guys. We do these conversations because we want to have them, but it makes it feel even better to know that you guys like it too, that it's enlightening and entertaining, and maybe a little better than just noise in your ear hole to help you pass the time. Might even change your life sometimes. I like to think that personally.
Noise with benefit.
Yeah, hopefully not like just noise for the sake of noise, but we're going to talk about today. So as Romy mentioned, I'm a human tuner, right? We've had a while back, we had a Rising from the Ashes about that, I think. I was way earlier in the journey at that point.
Yeah.
My level of experiences is far, far beyond. Like, I was a lot more hypothetical, conceptual, researching it a lot, starting to practice, but now I've tuned like probably a couple hundred people if I had to guess. Definitely a shitload of people. I don't know. Not exactly keeping track.
It's a lot of humans, man.
It's really fascinating. It is. And what I like about it is that, I like a lot about it, I'll say. And, if we want to recap some of the ropes of like what that is as we, at some point in this conversation, I'm cool with that. But, what I've learned, maybe the deepest lesson overall, one of, is that what makes it so simple as a practitioner is that we are all way more similar than we are different. Even though we have completely unique lives, completely unique experiences, nobody's story is exactly the same. I liken it to a painting, right? Look at any of the masterpiece paintings of history, and they're all completely different. Like, no AI could do that. No one could replicate exactly brushstroke for brushstroke somebody else's work, even if it wasn't a masterpiece. Yet, every one of those paintings was made with the same palette of colors, right? So human beings are the same way, right? We got like this chakra system, which is very tangible, at least whenever you're using it as your conceptual framework to talk to the body like a language. It's very tangible. And those colors that are those chakras have a lot to do with tone. Cymatics and colors are probably the same thing in a way, and cymatics, if that's a new word for people, probably not around here, but that's one of the things we're going to be getting into today. Cymatics being the vibratory patterns created by sound waves, right? So, yeah, I feel like you got some responses. Let it rip.
Always, man, always. Well, I want to start off with I brought up in the introduction, like dowsing. And I know that I know that you use it within your tuning practice, but like, I don't know if you consider yourself like a medical dowser or whatever that term or verbology is, but is that something that you implement into your sessions, or how you find where to?
Yeah, buddy, I have these. Yeah, it saves so much time. Because whenever we're talking an energy field, the toroidal field that is our body is embedded within, right? It's a big field, man. It's like 6 feet off the body in all directions, front, back, left, right. So, and in the process of biofield tuning, which, I use that phrase, it belongs sort of to to Eileen McCusick, a friend of mine who pioneered the entire thing.
Oh, wow.
I really should never bring it up without her. She's the shit. So you can find her work at the Biofield Tuning store, or looking up her books. Electric Body, Electric Health is the newest one. Eileen Day McCusick, totally incredible time. And her theory, I guess we could call it a theory. I mean, once you put it into practice, it becomes very much more like a law than a theory. But I'm still totally open to the idea that it's an imaginary framework like any other language. So let's communicate, this is not my Dalai Lama tea mug here in nature would not exist, let alone be called a mug, right? It is what it is. But the biofield anatomy is the language that Eileen pioneered, where we have the ability to communicate with our bodies through this conceptual framework of what type of energy is in what part of the field around the body. It's extraordinarily helpful, even if you're not a tuning practitioner, because like for me, if I ever get a boo-boo, I have now the knowledge of like, what does that part of my body represent in my emotional life or my progress forward in life, so to speak. And that helps the healing process really fast. In fact, it is so like the knowledge is becoming so tangible and real for me that the other day I got a voice bubble from a friend who I love very much, and they were having a band. I feel like they kind of took it out on me, and like, I'm personally very sensitive to people trying to make me feel bad. Like I have had a history of bad relationships before I got myself in order, where the whole dynamic was like being made to feel bad.
It's like a strange archetype, dude.
Playing on the fact that I care and I want to be good. It's pretty common. So I got this voice bubble to be made to feel bad. And, I'm not saying I wasn't at fault for sort of triggering her feeling, his friend, but it felt it in my shoulder. I immediately it immediately aggravated a shoulder injury that I got from another sort of friction issue with a friend a few weeks before that had been healing.
Oh shit.
But, because I immediately realized that this re-injury of the shoulder thing was connected to the energy of this message I just received. And my lovely lady helped me step through this and help me see myself clearly.
Thank God for healthy partnerships, man.
Oh, so helpful, right? So she helped me walk through it, and talked me through it, playing sort of the mediator between the sides. And eventually I finally, after a little while, came to the realization of like, okay, here is why universe is presenting this situation. This is the lesson I need to learn about myself, the way I package how I speak, the motivation I have for what I say, and reconciling myself to the truth that like, okay, even though what I authentically want in my soul is to be good and do the right thing, I recognized, oh shit, I was kind of like doing what you would call like looshing or energy harvesting with the way I delivered a certain message that allowed me to be like holier than thou. I'm the good one and you're not type of feeling, which gave me a hit of energy at the time, but at the expense of somebody, and maybe more than one person, but definitely a friend of mine's feelings, who I'm not saying this friend was completely in the right with their side of it either. With disputes, it's like nobody's fully right, nobody's fully wrong usually. But anyway, the point is I felt the shoulder injury come back in. I worked through the problem that I was having with the friend that related to the shoulder pain on my side, figured out where I needed to learn a lesson about my behavior, and it got better. The issue got better. Like it was within a span of 30 minutes. Like, oh, it hurts again. Working through it, figuring it out completely on the mental plane. The tension went away. So everything that we experience in our body is like a message from our body, our higher self, our soul, trying to help us see ourselves more clearly and learn the lesson we need to learn in that moment. And the longer we reject the message, the further we can go into dis-ease, pain, tension, injury, etc. So the biofield anatomy, learning that, which you can do if you pick up her books or, check out some of my work on the subject, or there's a lot of ways you can learn this, and there's probably other systems that are similar. But if you can learn this, then, and if you're willing to be radically honest with yourself, it's a game changer. You can self-heal so many things. You can help other people see themselves more clearly. Like, where are you at with X, Y, or Z based on where they're hurt, and you can help them through that on really needs to be worked out, which is on their psyche thing, is psychosomatic in terms of the body. So I spit a lot at you though. right there.
I love it, man. Well, it's true because I mean it's relevant for me actually, like currently, and it's always a helpful reminder for anybody that like there's a lot of things that our body deals with, and it's not always just physical, and a lot of times more often than not, it might actually be more energetic than and emotional than it is physical, and so just reminding ourselves about this is incredibly important, brother. So I love it. But
Yeah,
more
I'm saying
back
it
on
always is.
Oh, it always
I'm
is. It
saying
always is. It always is.
Yeah.
I have to always, the way I word things always leaves a little bit of wiggle room for all the people on the fringe ends of whatever the fuck is being said at the moment. But I was very curious about what and how does this actual like dowsing, and how do you figure out when and where?
Oh
like,
yeah, dowsing.
So curious to me. I love that. Like, is there a specific tool that you use?
Yeah. I'm a fan of the L rods, which are like L-shaped copper rods with either a copper handle that can swivel or beads, like wooden beads. You would want something that could still conduct your body's electricity. I almost grabbed them. I have my forks and stuff back here, but I don't have the L rods on me. How I use them, I guess you could call it like medical dowsing. But I say, as I was saying, the biofield around the body is pretty large. So if I was going to be sweeping through somebody's field, left, right, front, back, and up, down, that could be like a 3-hour process. And so what I do at the beginning of work with the client is I basically, starting at their feet, then ankles, then knees, then root chakra through crown. So like 10 areas. I do this 10 times basically. No, I do it 20 times, I guess. It takes about 5 minutes. And I'll say like, I'll tell the rods like, okay, am I tuned into whatever their name is? And then the rods will go whoop, open. And then while they're open, I'll say, show me no. And then they'll and close again
so
in my hands. So they swivel left and right on the beads, and they open and close. And so then I've modified this process over time, and where I'm at now, this is the most efficient way to do it that I have found. And so it was different. There's been various iterations of this, but now what I do is say I'm looking at the root chakra. I'll go left side of the root chakra, and the right dowsing rod will be the front of the body, and the left dowsing rod will be the back of the body.
So you identify them a place beforehand, before establishing and going in. You say, you are this and you are this, and just to like reedify that in a moment. Oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So the two rods are actually operating independently for me. So as I approach the table where their body is, which is actually just a bunch of crystals and candles usually, although I do occasionally do in-person tunings, as I approach the table where their body is, then I'm thinking about the left side of their root chakra. I'm looking at the red candle, and one rod, the right rod might open, the left rod might stay closed as I get to the table. And then that tells me that the back side of the root chakra on the left, so the back left quadrant, like, their left glute, for example, would be like a correlate area, or the back of the left hip, correlate area in the body. Tell me, okay, there's some stuck energy that needs to be addressed in that quadrant of the field for that chakra area. I repeat that process left, right, front, back, for all of the energy centers of the body. It actually doesn't take that long, 3 to 5 minutes. And I take note of where there's, where the dowsing rods tell me to do it. And that gives me my roadmap for potential areas to work on in a session. Still not necessarily a guarantee that I can get to all the areas that their body said that it wanted help on in 1 hour, depending on how many places are indicated. And then from there, it's like intuitive on which areas I prioritize, kind of. But like if their sacral chakra is telling me front, back, left, right, all areas help, then I definitely make sure and hit that area. Whereas like, if there's just one corner of one of the regions for a chakra, that might be one that I save for the end if I don't think I can get to them all. And, again, about the dowsing, I love the ask about this.
I love dowsing.
There are other ways to do it.
Stuff,
you don't need,
honestly.
It is. And you'll probably like this. I developed this technique at Music and Sky Festival in your neck of the woods, kind of California. We were in SoCal, and I didn't have my L rods with me for this event. And I was doing these like tuning sessions for people where my plan was to just find their most bottlenecked energy center and just tune that one spot. That way I could do like a 5-ish minute tuning for somebody that could really enhance their flow state and their feeling of perpetual synchronicity without needing to like do a full tuning that could invoke detox action in the body or make them feel exhausted or you know, we're not trying to do the full gamut because that's a bit intense for being out at an event that's a camping festival.
Yeah. You want people to be able to like walk away from the session and not lay there for the next 2 hours in complete enthrallment, right?
Yeah. So just to pop the bottleneck wherever it's at in their energy field, wherever the most choke pointed spot is. So what I did is I'll just like hit this big fork right here and scan it up and down their body, and where the bottleneck spot energetically is, I'll get the memo. So for me, how that works is wherever I hit. So I think maybe using dowsing rods has been part of this. I think Qigong is a bigger part of this, but I think I've tuned my body to be the dowsing instrument itself without the need for tools. Because what I'm about to describe, I can do with my hands too, even if I had no tools on me. And I have yet to try to do like a full tuning session without any implements, but I'm pretty sure I could. And so,
well, let me ask you about that, brother.
Well, let me finish this real quick, buddy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to lay this little part on you. Whenever I am like querying, looking for something, like I'm looking for stuck energy in this area of the field where the dowsing rods told me it was, or I'm scanning up and down their body looking for where the bottleneck spot is in their energy field. When I hit the spot, my ears pop every time.
Shit. Oh.
Yeah. So my body has become like a dowsing tool in and of itself, because when I find what I have asked to find, what I'm looking for, my ears pop. Consistent 100% of the time. If I'm like, oh, let me double check, and I put my hand in that exact spot, or I put the fork in that spot again, they pop again. It's every time.
Consistently like that. That's
I'm not sure exactly how
wild.
I got that. It's kind of like a superpower. I think Qigong was a big part of it, though. They gave me that because, it feels like electricity. It's not like your ears popping whenever you're on a plane and where you lose hearing. I can feel sort of like a pressure differential in the eardrums for sure, but it doesn't cause a discomfort like going up and down mountains or an airplane. But it does pop, and it's really helpful.
Wow. So that is really fascinating because we just dropped this episode with this wonderful woman named Marty Kane, and she's a dowser that lives in North Carolina now. She's 82 years old. She's been dowsing since she was 5 years old from her grandfather, who taught her, who came over here from Lithuania, who was they called him the water witch. Yeah, family full of Lithuanian or Eastern European lineage that goes way back. And so, just talking with her and I've talked to a couple like geomantic dowsers so far, and I'm kind of coming to this understanding that like the rod is incredibly important, but after a certain point, you are the rod, or like the human. It is about us. It is about the energy within us. These tools are there to signify and give you like that extra thumbs up. Like, you got it. You're good. You know the deal. But I mean, I feel like that is such an ancient
I could not agree.
tool, man, or an ancient. It's not even a tool. Like, what do we call it? Like, why does that? Dowsing it's so esoteric in its nature, man. Like, it blows my mind. Like, we could do this entire episode probably on the concept of dowsing, to be honest, but we're not.
We probably could, but like, I think that you know more about it than me, man. If you want to bring a dowsing conversation to my channel sometime, because I think you've been researching it hella hard. Like, maybe I've been in the paint doing it, but you've been researching all the history of it in the different ways. And I find that all very fascinating. But what you said is key. It's about our energy. It's about us. And the tools are really helpful. whether the tool is a language like the biofield anatomy, which helps us communicate with the intelligence of our body, or it's the rods, which helps us communicate with the intelligence of our body. Because I mean, the way I see it is the life force energy that animates our vessel is not separate from the all of the pleromic, pranic life force energy of the creative intelligence of supreme beingness itself, baby. You know, like
That's
it's the
right.
same energy. You can't separate that. You can't like chop a part of that up and put it in one vessel and then put some of it in another vessel. It's the soup that everything swims in. So your life force energy is the creative intelligence and consciousness of all reality, self-existing, self-begotten, never-ending, you know, can never be destroyed or created, because it is what creates. And you can communicate with that intelligence, and the tools will help you do that because they signal a framework of understanding that allows that thing to talk back to you. But eventually, you know, you can develop ways to, once you realize what it is you're talking to, it will give you hints of like, here's another way you could do it that's simpler, you know, and it'll keep simplifying it often, at least in my experience. Like with Eileen McCusick, who I referenced earlier, her work started out using tuning forks, and she still tunes people and teaches that. But, you know, where she's going right now is teaching. She's been researching and now is starting to teach the sonic anatomy, the alchemy of our vocalizations, you know.
Oh, what?
So like, yeah, she's like figuring out the sound that you can make with your voice that correlates to every part of your body.
Okay.
Different sounds, like root primal, you know, sort of monosyllabic. An example would be the feet. The feet have a few sounds. The feet down to like knees down to the feet have a few sounds, but one of the main sounds for your feet is wah, 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 wah. Yeah. Or for your heart, one of what I think is for the back of your heart. I'm like awaiting my abilities to take the class and learn all these vocalizations because it's super next level. I did it in a workshop with her, a Music and Sky, and got to experience it from, you know, beginning to end and make all the sounds. And dude, it was legit. But the back of the heart chakra is a really fun one because it's roar. Roar. And I know there's something to it because the few that I have, other than my own experience, the few that I remember from that workshop, I have occasionally put into practice during tuning sessions with clients. And like one example, we're working on some pretty heavy duty heart chakra stuff for somebody. She was a nurse for her whole life, like really an ER nurse, like really took on a lot of negative energy from her environment, from other people, due to her extremely open, empathic nature and the toxicity of such a hospital, you know, workplace. And so there was a ton of, I'm not saying like she was fucked up or anything, but there's a lot of stuck energy in that region to move. And as I was like working there, and I was like, man, I think I need extra help. I need you to help me do this more than me just use the tones and the forks. And so I was like, all right, get your raw on, you know, and I walked her through it. I was like, you need to raw while I hit these forks and move this energy that's kind of stuck, and keep roaring till I tell you to stop. And dude, she couldn't even get through roars because she was yawning all of a sudden. She wasn't tired. Wow. She wasn't underslept. She had not yawned at all. But as soon as we started working,
is because I know that's a huge psychic energy thing.
Well, yeah. I couldn't hash it out in some scientific terms or anything, but whenever some stuck energy in the field is we're working it, sometimes yawning, sometimes spontaneous need to pee, sometimes spontaneous crying. There's a lot of ways it can happen, but like all I'm saying is she went from fully awake and alert, and she wasn't tired, and she wasn't tired during this either, to like couldn't stop yawning in order to get a full roar out. And so we kept going until she could roar all the way without yawning. And that's also when I was getting the signal from her biofield and the forks that we had like integrated that off balance energy properly. So yeah, the sonic anatomy thing is so awesome because it's getting us back to the core tool, which is our voice. That is the real tool. All the other stuff is just like, imitation of what the real thing is. Not that I always like to use forks. I like having the external thing. It's fun to play with like the technology of it, but your voice is the real technology, man.
Dude, I love it so much. This is a great, this is such a good segue and kind of warm up into the topics that we're talking about, and makes sense because they're hand in hand. We're going into solfeggio, folks. That's the reason why we set this episode up. But everything that's being talked about is so important because these are modern tactics, to bridge the gap between the ancient ways, like this ancient understanding of the biofield, even though it's not written biofield in alchemical text or whatever, that's what we understand it as. This was understood in ancient times. The toroid field, the chakra system, it was all written in beautiful.
Yeah, it's like what Chinese medicine's based on.
It's
chakras are based on.
Exactly. Vedic medicine, Vedic history, Vedic temple building, old architecture is built on this stuff, and the temples themselves were hand in hand built to resonate solfeggio tones, and so it's awesome. And so I'm so glad we're doing this, and I want to hand the mic back over to you, brother. How are we going to walk our way into understanding solfeggio this evening?
So, like I said, I told you this off the air, I don't have like a concrete presentation outlined, but I have a lot of tabs open.
Perfect.
No. So I just want to explore the topic with everybody. I'm not going to be making any major claims about it, but I will say I use solfeggio tuning forks. I have a set back here. Here is the 174. So if anybody's interested in getting into doing, playing with frequency in a sort of medical sense, energy healing sense, I recommend the 174 all day. This is I could do everything that I need to do in a client session with just this fork if I wanted to. And I like to use the other tones. And, before we talk about like what solfeggio is, I'll just, I guess it's hard to know where to start. Okay. So what solfeggio is a set of 9 frequencies, and we're going to explore what those 9 frequencies are going forward and what I think makes them special. Maybe I have some criticism about what the internet says about them.
We love that. We need that.
Yeah, because there's some serious new age bullshit about solfeggio, and I don't know. It's just like so much. The more I do my own research into things versus just listening to the talking heads, the more I realize that most people on most subjects in the truth community are repeating each other's information without really like looking into the source. I myself have been guilty of this. Don't get me wrong. Like, bro science, podcast bro science is like, it's a human thing. But the thing is that like, it hurts us all. It's a bad look for all of us whenever we're repeating information that is unfounded and from the outside just looks like, looks silly. So solfeggio has that going on. I'll share my screen. I'll be popping off different screen shares.
I'll say like, but it's funny because anything,
and I'll narrate what we're looking at too.
Anything in the new age woo woo, for lack of a better term, new age woo woo is just kind of one of the go-to phrases for that. They're riffing off of incredibly ancient truths that are real and that are important, that need to be brought up in today's society. But like you said, a lot of it gets construed and misconcepted when people are trying to just make their content, make their page, though a lot of it is ringing in like an actual ancient truth, through the game of telephone or through people's, different interpretations of it, what have you. But it is incredibly important. And so having these different types of discernment like your own, it's awesome. And like, I actually trust
trust your judgment because of just how I know you work and operate, and that devil's advocacy that you do have and display, I think is it's going to make your mark in this world and industry, brother.
Oh, and look who it is. Dan's here.
Oh my goodness.
Dan has arrived just in time. I'm just about to start getting into
yes.
Solfeggio.
Yes.
Really good timing, man.
Great timing.
It's impeccable.
It's
welcome,
impeccable.
brother. So what I have screen shared here is the Solfeggio, like the common new age correlations to the Solfeggio tones. So I'll read through them here. You have 174 is said to reduce pain. Maybe I won't read through all of them. 528, repair DNA. 963, awaken perfect state. 396, turn grief into joy, etc. So in my experience, all this list is actually nonsense. And I don't know where it came from, to be honest, but it is everywhere. If you look up the phrase Solfeggio, you're almost guaranteed to find YouTube videos that list these qualities to these tones. And, you know, they're making claims that are impossible. What is so funny about it is they're claims that are impossible to prove or disprove. So I think a big part of where, if I had to guess, I think a big part of why this has been popularized in terms of these correlations to the tones is probably to do with like YouTube channels that want to get a lot of views for videos that took them very little work.
Yeah.
Like, let's just put this tone on a video and say that it's going to repair your DNA, and it's an 8-hour loop, and you know, people be watching it and repair their DNA. They want a quick fix without any actual,
you know, the hardest part of making those videos,
you know, if you want to facilitate change, you don't play a 417 tone. You find what you need to change and what you're wrong about, and, you know, do the work. So now here's the other caveat I want to make, and then I'll let you go, Romy. The other thing I want to say is my experience with coherent sound of any kind, whether it's a Solfeggio tone or not, is that it is a carrier of our intention. And so if, you know, I'm not saying that these qualities that are listed here are impossible to get out of Solfeggio tones, but I am saying that they're not automatically going to do the things listed here. And I'm sure about that. And so I consider it to be quite like definitely like a unfortunate internet culture development that Solfeggio has been tied to this new age list of qualities that, you know, return to spiritual order for 852. Can you please tell me like what you mean by that? Or solve 741, solve and clean. Does that mean if I play a 741 fork, I've got it right here, is my house gonna spontaneously become clean? I would love that. You know, like it's silly. So
yeah.
You know, and that's not criticism of the frequencies themselves. I think they're quite magical. And I think that it's been, you know, it took me playing with them and tooling around with the relationships between the tones to come up with some ideas about what I think might be what might make them special. And we can get into that. But I just wanted to give that disclaimer that I'm not one of these people that's claiming that, you know, the the 639 frequency is going to automatically fix your relationships in your life, because it won't. It doesn't work that way. There is no quick fix. You have to what makes tones, in terms of how biofield tuning works, what makes them useful is that they are an instrument in a language that allow you to talk to your body and find out what your body says you need to be aware of so that you can change it. You have to become aware, and then you have to change it. This stuff isn't gonna, you can't just like fix yourself without becoming aware of what was wrong. In my opinion, I think you need to know. That's the whole reason why the body goes into states of disorder, is so that you can find out, you can go through it to find out what it is, and then get to harmony on the other side. There's a lot more we could say about that. Stop there.
A clue given from your very, very smart and in-tune body to the mind to say like, hey, this is happening. All the answers are here. Deal with this, and you know, we'll get going and moving and grooving again. And if you listen, then you know, or if you know somebody that listens, you know, you have a practitioner, the body is speaking, and it's part of the hardest part about existence is like knowing what to deal with of what's going on, you know, like while we have all this information being thrown at us, you know, like all
yeah,
this.
and even like some hardcore stuff that people are taught by the medical establishment is like, you just are this way. Your fault. Your body is faulty. Like one pattern that I've noticed, I think I've seen it 4 or 5 times, enough to feel confident that there might be a there, which is asthma. I've worked on several women who had asthma their whole life, and then like severe, and I'm not talking about a little bit of asthma. I'm talking about severe asthma, medication, inhalers, the whole nine. And people that want to come off that stuff or have come off of it, but they feel like sometimes they struggle with it. And what I have found as a pattern with, I don't know about men, I haven't worked on a lot of men who had asthma, but for women who have had asthma, every one of them that I've worked on, I've wound up finding in their biofield that as a child or like a preteen, their dad either died or completely left the picture of their life. And it was all of them. And so, you know, working through the repressed and deep set grief and trauma of that, they may have already been trying to do, but connecting the dots of, I don't have asthma because there's something wrong with my body. My body has asthma as a reaction to this energetic gap in my field, constitution of the father being gone. And it's been trying to get me to notice that I need to connect those dots. You know, they need to connect those dots for their asthma to really get resolved. And it's like almost that simple that they just needed to know that their asthma wasn't because there's something wrong with them. It was because they were traumatized by not having a dad or their dad dying. And, you know, there's always going to be sensitivity there. And so whenever they have asthma flare-ups, if they do down the line, which could still happen, they can know that, okay, where am I grieving? You know, where am I feeling a lack of support from the masculine in my life, whether it's their husband or, you know, their stepdad or whatever, or even like a male figure that's like a boss. Am I feeling unsupported by them? You know, is there's going to be a correlate where this sort of grief, lack of support circuit gets activated, and then the asthma flares up. And then if they know that, then they can work on it from the sort of external level or the internal level and resolve the issue. The body is just doing these things to tell you where your emotional circuitry is getting out of whack. It's not that your body is broken or something is wrong with it. It's always a message. So that's the example I wanted to give.
Oh, I love it. And I want to give Dan a chance to say his greetings here and all the things. But one thing I wanted to point out about those Solfeggio like healing videos on YouTube, just from experience of like making music and stuff, like the hardest part about making those videos is the time it takes to process the video and upload it to YouTube. Other than that, like it is dragging, stretching, copy paste, you know, rhetoric. So anybody, if you know, no shame if you use those things, but just know that you know, like it's all,
if they make you feel good in some way. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying that they're spreading bad information as well.
I agree.
But your intention can be carried on a frequency. So if you're like really, you know, if you're like super good at meditating your intention into reality and you like to use those type of videos to help you do it, I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying I think that's why this correlation is spread around, and it is like, it's like many things in the truth community. It's like lazy research that gets repeated. Not to burst anybody's bubble. You know, if you make those kind of videos, I am not hating. You know, maybe you've got some really cool graphics with it too. Like, it's all good, but I don't think that that's really the end all be all of understanding Solfeggio. That's for sure.
Yeah, like there's a like at one point, and I think we will go into this. I would love to maybe segue into this next, like more like history and some of the reasons of these triads grouped together and then flipped, and switched, like how they have the trinity of numbers there in the triangle, and how they the number switches as the octaves go up, which is super fascinating, which means there's some sort of celestial alignment or a predetermined archetype that's attached to those numbers that has this correlation that is so deep and ancient, because we're talking about the days of Pythagoras and Daddy Pythagoras and before him and all the things. But like I said, Dan, what's happening, brother? How are you? I want to give you a proper greeting, man.
What's up, man? Cool. Let's go.
Nice.
I don't really have much to say. Been working all day. I had a question though, Chance. Like, I know that you do this within the body, but is there like a biofield to like a town or a city where maybe you could see that there's something not connecting in that biofield, which is causing like societal turmoil?
That's a really awesome question, man. The thing with towns and cities is they're not all laid out the same, the way that every human body is loosely the same. And what you just asked as a question might really be a clue towards why there was a certain architectural standard to cathedrals and temples. Because, making some kind of parallel to the body in your architecture makes a ton of sense, and having a system for that makes a ton of sense. Like music theory makes it, the more I learn about it, even though I can't read music yet, the more I learn about it, the more, like, at first I was sort of like, are they keeping us in the box? Are they trying to limit our musical expression? And now I'm like, no, they're giving us a language. And there's a lot of freedom in that language to communicate through, but it allows all of us to talk, through music. I think now I'm kind of totally into music theory as a good thing. There's a reason, there's a method to the order that is probably for the good and probably far predates any systems of draconic control that may have implemented it themselves. So your question is awesome. On some level, energetically, there has to probably be a biofield to the bubble that humans create when they congregate. Like, I know whenever I've gone to big music festival events where it's like super high energy and it's out in the middle of nowhere, right? Like on a mountain or some shit. And there'll be a point where you cross some threshold of approaching the event. You're almost there. You've been basically in nowhere, in nature, nobody around. You cross this threshold of the bubble space of the event, and it's just like, I'm here. I feel it. Yes. So, I mean, there's something to that, and what you're saying. Maybe eventually human beings and we'll get to the point where we can like diagnose and detect illnesses in the body, energetic body of towns or maybe a household or something. That's a very interesting thought. I love that question.
Yeah. I had another one brewing and I lost it.
I like thinking about that too, Dan, and it's crazy because you totally feel where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and I think us tuning in and tapping into that and just like being with ourselves and having introspective times to understand like what feels good and what feels like the dowsing, when we're talking about our bodies are dowsing rods. So like, are you leaning forward into this? Like, is this feeling good, or do you really just want to go back? And if you want to go back, maybe, be like, okay, what are we stepping into? Draconian powers that be, understanding these ancient, esoteric cycles and ciphers and things. Absolutely. No doubt. But as long as we talk about them here and now, we're having the same type of information. And I think the 7 sacred sciences, music being one of them, and Solfeggio is music theory. Like, you're talking about music theory, whether it's good or bad. I went through the same shit because, I wanted to be a self-taught musician. I didn't want to take any music. I didn't want to take guitar classes. I didn't want to learn anybody else's songs. I was like, No, like this is too, it's too structured. There's got to be a more natural way to understand these things. But as I get further down it too, I'm like, okay, wait, music theory is a code. It is a cipher. It is a labyrinth. It is celestial too, and it has mathematical correspondence as well as astrological correspondence. And the deeper going into the esoteric research, I'm finding out that music vibration is everything as well as shape and physical structure, and it all boils down to that. And so, like, let's segue into one, because I know you have some good etymology of the word and the tone solfeggio, but can we go into the number correlations? Because as you go through the solfeggio scale, it's the same three numbers grouped in three different patterns, and then they shift up. And what are those numbers? Like, why are they grouped together? Oh shit, here we go.
Sorry, man, I had
music
myself
is a
muted.
wheel. Music is a wheel itself, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like on guitar, it goes from E to E again.
So you guys can see my screen well, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We are up and
okay, cool. So I'll narrate this as we go too for people just listening at home. But I made this like infographic on what I think is special about solfeggio. So I started off, it was going to be small, and then I just kind of kept going. So we'll scroll through this. But I think maybe whenever that quote that is famously attributed to Tesla, that as far as I know is not anywhere in his own writings or recorded statements.
Classic.
That if you understand 3, 6, and 9, you understand the secrets of the universe. I don't know if Tesla ever said that or if Tesla even existed as described, but there is something very interesting about 369 with solfeggio. And, you know, if people are familiar with my channel and my work, I do a lot to decode the esoteric astrotheology, and the Trinity is a really big part of the universal system that all of our religions around the world derive from. So this 369 is like an expression of the Trinity in number, right? And in terms of solfeggio, okay, so if you went and like you Google the term solfeggio and, you know, you land on Wikipedia, you'll get a page that talks about the hymn to St. John the Baptist from about 1,000 years ago, where supposedly it was the first time notated in music the idea of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti was ever put forth. I don't really think that's the same thing as these tones, because I can't see, I think that that's more of the, I think those are different things. Technically that is solfege, and this is solfeggio. I don't know who decided to coin these numerical values solfeggio. It's confusing, but that's what we're talking. We're talking about 9 sets of numbers, and each of these, you know, like really when you think about solfeggio, to me, the magic of it is more in the numerical relationship than the actual sound itself. I know that sounds bizarre, but in my experience, you can do anything with a coherent tone. Like it probably sounds distasteful to people, but I think I could tune somebody's biofield with a 440 fork, even though there's like a lot of 440 conspiracy. And I even have a video queued up if we want to look at it. Like, you know, I've done my best to look without having the ability to run cymatics through plates and sand myself to see the difference between 432 and 440. And, you know, it depends on how you derive the cymatic pattern. And sometimes 440 looks dirty, but sometimes it looks like just different, but not like it's bad. So all that being said, you know, I guess to finish the loop on 440 and 432, I think that maybe the issue when it comes to the 440 is that if you were making a chromatic scale of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right, that your 440 as A would give you other notes that get into fractions or decimals. And I think that could be maybe why overall it has a less good vibe to it. That is just a personal theory, conjecture. With 432, all the other notes up and down the scale are going to give you whole numbers. And even that, you know, I don't know. I won't get lost in the weeds on that. This big fork I have right here is a 384. Maybe I should hit it.
Yeah, tap that puppy.
It goes forever. This is a big ass fork. It would ring forever if I let it. I could do a whole session with just this. It's really about having a coherent sound. And when I say coherent sound, I mean like something where if you were to look at it visually depicted, the peak and trough were even with each other, where the vibration was symmetrical and consistent. You know, even if it starts to peter out and get quieter, the peaks and troughs above and below the middle line, if you're looking at a visual representation, would remain in a consistent pattern. So that's what I mean, coherent sound. Pretty much any coherent sound can carry an intention, and that intention can be used for healing purposes or harming purposes, I guess, but definitely healing purposes. I try not to really worry myself about the harming purposes. They seem pretty evident in the lyrics of modern music without needing to get into like the actual frequencies, you know. But back to this phrase we have called solfeggio. It's a term given to a special set of 9 numbers, and many believe the coherence of these frequencies has healing properties when played as audible tones. The numbers are as follows: 174, which is and then
I love forks so much.
you guys, should I just play each of them?
Yes.
Is that cool?
Yes, please.
Okay. And so that's 174. Then we have 285. And
can we potentially like after you play them, or is there a symbolic correlation with each of these, and what are they?
oh yeah, the answer to that is no. I have some ideas. Like we're gonna get into that with this infographic.
Sweet.
Like so we'll get into that some, but okay. So when I say like a coherent sound, here's 396. So when I say that a coherent sound can carry an intention, what I do with these personally, like when I first got a set of forks, I got a set called the Solar Harmonic set, which uses that 432 as A and gives you a fork for C all the way across to the next octave of C. And the C is supposed to be the root chakra. And as you go up, D, sacral chakra, E, solar plexus, F, heart chakra, G, throat chakra, which is what my big fork is. The 384 is a G for your throat. And on it goes up to the crown. So when I got those forks, I found that they had a kind of a sedative effect on people that I worked on, but I didn't use them long. My set vanished on me in a really weird way. We won't go into that, but they just disappeared. And so I decided maybe that means I should have got the solfeggio, because I was really early in all this at that time. So I got the solfeggio forks, and they didn't vanish on me, but I used them in a similar way. So this 396, I would use for the root chakra. But as I already said, I could use a 174 for the whole system if I wanted to. And I recommend people start with the 144 or 174, because the longer tines and the lower end frequency make it easier to detect changes in the tone if you are doing practicing the biofield tuning method where you want to try to find distortion in their energy field, you would do that by playing this tone, sweeping it through their energy field, and trying to listen for where the fork changed in some way. And then it's about your, intuition helps you decide what that change means and why. And it takes practice, but you learn to communicate with the intelligence of the body that way. So 396, I'm using for root. And then up the scale, I'll name the chakra that I use for the fork as we go. But again, this is not like, I do not consider this to be like some law of nature. I don't. Mm-hmm. But it is a carrier of intent. So for me, because over and over again in sessions, when I pull out this 417 that I'm holding right here, I intend to tune the sacral chakra. That means that like when I pull this out, I don't have to be like, okay, I am now connecting to the sacral chakra and like really focus on that or get, it's just seamless. I pull it out. I know what it's for. This is what I mean when I pull out this fork. And so it's like a shortcut. Mm-hmm. But again, I could do it all with one fork if I wanted to, and any of these forks would work. So this is 417. You could correlate this with the sacral chakra if you want, but it's up to you. The 174, by the way, I use for like when I am doing sessions, I use that for people's feet, ankles, and knees, everything under the root. And in fact, I don't even use the 285 in sessions. It's something about it. Not that it's a bad tone. It sounds great, but it's just harder of all of them. To me, that's the one that's hardest to like detect changes and like audibly hear. So I don't use that one as much. But the 417, this is, you could say sacral chakra if you want to correlate it that way. And 528. So we have had 174, 285, 396, 417, 528. Now, we're going to get into some of the combinations as well, but I'm going to stop there for time's sake. Unless you think I should play should I play the other four?
Yes.
Okay, you guys are into it. All right. Sometimes I get in a rush. There's no need to rush, guys. Quit rushing me. 639. This could be, you could correlate this to the heart chakra if you wish. 639. Seven, 4, 1, throat chakra, if you like. Yeah, and now we have 852, third eye. And last but not least, 963. Crown chakra. So some of those videos that I mentioned, you'll find people claiming numbers like 1111 hertz being a solfeggio, and things further beyond they'll be like a 9,999 hertz frequency, activate God mode. Like none of those are solfeggio, in my opinion. And we'll get into, that'll become evident as I talk about why I think these specific numbers are relevant. And I'd also like to maybe play a couple of them like together, more than one at the same time, because that's where there's like some magic in that. Yeah. But yeah, you guys have anything to throw in or ask before I move forward in this whole thing about what makes a number
No,
solfeggio?
but I did kind of feel like I could feel them in those areas, not exactly the spot, but at least the vibration when you did the 741, I felt it in my jaws. And then the 852, I felt in my, like behind my eyes, and the 963, I felt in the back of my head.
That is cool, man. I get that a lot when I'm doing sessions for people. You know, we're just on a call, we're not on video or anything. And they'll be like, I'm feeling tingling in my chest. I'll have just started like working on the solar plexus or the heart. Mm-hmm. So I cannot tell it's because those tones really do activate those parts of the body, or because I was transmitting the intention that we're connecting to that part. You can't, it's chicken or an egg. I don't think you can separate. I don't think you can know. But maybe there is a way to know someday. I'm just not making a claim about something.
Well, you might need both. Just like these numbers need all three things. There's probably multiple components that go into like the initial goal. Like I think a lot of the stripped power away from us is that third component to a lot of things. You know, like we have one piece of really great information. You are the body that's like there with that knowledge of the information of the other thing. But then there's that one other, so I think it's all necessary in that. Like, I mean, yeah, like I don't know if we should get into it on the air. I think I talked about it on our Telegram and stuff. But when I got gifted a set of forks, man, and I got really into them in my room, and they vanished from me as well. Like they got destroyed through just nature.
Ran over, right?
They got ran over on the highway. And like I thought I had opened a portal with them because I was getting so into like meditating with them in my room, and I literally asked for a portal to be open, and then my neighbor's house caught on fire like that same exact night, like about 2 hours later.
Bro, careful, bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and like
Scorpios opening portals, shit gets burned down.
It's so I think a lot of it is like, we talked about the negative stuff before, it's like, I don't know if it's necessarily the numbers that are like a negative frequency, like the 440, 444. I think that's a bunch of like relative mumbo jumbo, but I do think, like you were saying, just a clear tone that goes through. Once that channel is open, once that clear tone is there, I think the intention is like a huge other part of the component, whether it being like, a shadow or a dark, because pentacles can be summoned to bring angels, or they can be summoned to bring demons, right? So like, so the intention is a huge part in this, man.
It's a huge part in it. Like, I think part of the intention of, not maybe in the people who are spreading the research or doing the research, I am not trashing anybody over that, but it's like, why do they tell everybody that the cowpoke, on one hand, they're like, everyone get the cowpoke, it's perfectly safe. And then on the other hand, they're like, publishing information on the official sources about like deaths and shit. I think that that's part of the wizardry, is to tell you that the thing is hurting you, like tell everybody that the 440 music is making you ill or crazy. And in a lot of ways, I think the conspiracy community may be unwittingly and unintentionally spreading poison in the information that they spread, which is really tricky. I'm not faulting anybody for that. I'm not calling anybody out specifically. We would have all been guilty of it at some point, if that's true.
Inevitably so.
So that's and I don't think, by the way, I'm not faulting you for your neighbor's house burning down. I don't think you did that. Wild coincidence.
Yeah, definitely a wild coincidence that made me actually like really calm down after that. Because it was
maybe you did. I don't know. If you think you did, then you probably did.
They weren't home. They weren't home. They were they weren't on home. They were on vacation. It was close to a lunar cycle. I can't remember if it was full or new. But in the bathtub with salt water, with intention, with breathing with a lot of things. Like it really actually kind of scared me straight a bit. And then soon after that, like they basically got destroyed. Like I went to go offer them to somebody at the yoga studio. I said, "Hey brother, like I think you should use these. I've been using them for a while. I've been having some crazy experiences in my room, on my own with them. Like, try them out." And he's like, "No, don't worry about it." And I ended up leaving them on the top of my car. He was going to buy some. That's why he didn't want to do it. He's like, "No, I'm just going to go buy some tonight." And I was like, "Okay, great, whatever. You don't want to use them. I'm only a little bit butthurt, but it's okay." And, but it's kind of like that same thing I've heard, like, people say, like, once a crystal itself is done with you, or like it's so full of like your energy and it hasn't gotten transmuted out, or it'll like find a way away from you, because there's so much of that energy stored. And if you don't take proper care of these tools or equipment, like they're just as much living as you are in a sense, that they'll try to literally leave you and say like, "Dude, come on, bro, like give me some space."
Yeah, everything is animated by the same self-existing life force intelligence that we are. So forks, crystals, like these are made of metal. Metal is one of the elements that it naturally comes about in our realm, and it is in some form alive, just slower than we are. I think so. I will say, on the note of buying forks, I recommend, like, the forks I use are from a website called Omnivos, Omnivos. I like them a lot. I also hear good things about Medivibe, Medivibe, Medivibe. And then, of course, the Biofield Tuning Store. Those are probably your top-notch, top-dollar forks that you can get. They're, in my experience, the most durable and most clear tones. But, for starting out, if you want to get a full set, you could get like an Omnivos set of the Solfeggio forks for like, I don't know, $150 maybe. Maybe you get a better deal certain days depending on what's up. So that's not bad for... I will say, I've never tried to open portals with my forks. I've never played with them in the bath, and I've only ever used them with the intention for like healing or balancing or harmonizing. So I guess that's outside of my wheelhouse in terms of what happened with either Romy, but
it was irresponsible, to say the least.
Are there tuning forks with 3 prongs?
Not that I know of.
Oh, I see you. I see where you're asking there.
Tuning trident. That could be a really fucking cool invention, though.
There's that weapon too that like Marduk holds. I forget what the fuck it's called.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's like it looks like a trident, but it's not. It's like and there's like 3 prongs on both sides.
So the guy that makes these big ones, like the one I'm holding here, he makes like a Darth Maul version where it's double-sided. There's a fork on both sides, and he does it so that one side that you're holding is the perfect fifth to the other side. That's what I want next. This super.
Whoa! Yeah, that is super shiny. I see big twirls happening in the future here.
Oh man,
big twirly whirlies.
Okay, so let's continue. So if anybody hadn't already started to clue in to what makes a Solfeggio number, so let's examine the pattern of the traditional 3x3 grouping of 9 digits, like you would see on your phone if you were typing in a phone number. 1, 2, 3 in one row, 4, 5, 6 in one row, 7, 8, 9 in another row. Now let's look at those vertical columns, and they create a trinity of trinities. These three sets of 3 numbers. These 3-digit groups create the 9 numbers of Solfeggio. So that's 147 or 417 or 741. I'm sorry, 174 is one of them, 417 and 741. Why they are in the certain order that they're in, we'll get into that. But so 3 of the 9 Solfeggios have the 1, the 7, and the 4 grouped together. The next 3 have the 2, 5, 8 grouped together, and then the 3, 6, and 9 grouped together. So that's part of So that's the first thing that you can observe when you're thinking about the pattern of 174-285-396, 417-528-639, 741-852-963. Now, what's interesting is if you do some basic addition, and if people don't like things being mathy, too bad, it's going to be a little bit mathy. If you add the digits in these three sets of Trinity, you will see more. So the 147 adds up to 12. The 258 adds up to 15. The 369 adds up to 18. Now, if we do a little theosophical reduction, the 12 becomes a 3, the 15 becomes a 6, and the 18 becomes a 9. So we see a 369 pattern happening here. We see this every time we open our phone and we're going to call somebody and type in a number. This 3x3 grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh man, that's it. Sorry, I just had like yeah. Keep going.
Lay it on me, man. Lay it on me. What do you got?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like when I'm looking into like numeral symbology or numerology in the symbols and numbers, I'm like, there's so much archetypes that go into each of these digits, and then looking at it through this lens is really interesting, and grouping these three things together, giving you like a single archetype, but like the trinity of that archetype, and also they're interchangeable depending, which reminds me a lot of like theologies and mythologies and astrotheological stories. Is like the interchangeability of these certain players at a point, how they might transmute into each other. And
I like where your head's at, man. Like, one thing that I plan to do is get with Gabriel and see how these numbers apply to the Enneagram.
Oh,
like what happens when you put a 7, a 4, and 1 together of Enneagram characters.
That's a
he's
great
got
idea.
Mythological characters that correspond to the Enneagram, and like angels and demons that go with each of the 9 of the Ennead, ancient Egyptian Ennead. So I feel there's probably a lot there. There might even be mythological stories that are derived from the Solfeggio Enneagram. Like, I think this may be more ancient knowledge than we think in
the
terms
one
of
thing that
the
really
special harmony between these sets of numbers, because we're just kind of getting cooking here. There's like a lot of weird number magic in these nine digits.
It's true. The one thing that really just got me on this one was like the 147, because those grouping of 3 numbers are incredibly significant. And I don't know much about the 2, 5, and 8 besides obvious, that oh goodness. Okay, I need to just calm down, but I want to say
we'll get there.
The septenary, the monad, and then the quadrant, like the quadrivium, the septenary, the monad, all being grouped together is really fucking cool, because
it is
my goodness. So yes, please keep going.
Yeah, it's so cool. My dog was getting stoked on it.
Good boy.
It's like, yeah. So exactly, I like where your head's at, because this is, I think, where we can reveal some of the more of the wisdom of these groupings. So the 1, 7, 1, 4, and 7, in my opinion, represents the first Trinity, or represents 3, because they 1, 4, and 7 added together gives you 12, which reduces to 3. The Trinity is called the 3 in 1. Is a concept found in all spiritual systems. You have Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. You have God, Jesus, Holy Ghost. You have Noah's 3 sons, Ham, Japheth, and who's the other one? Shem. It goes this Trinity is over and over, and there's a lot more as like in terms of mythology and sky clock stuff about the Trinity without getting into the weeds and that. But what is important is that the numbers 4 and 7 also encode the 3 in 1, and why that is. Doing this theosophical reduction. I guess I used that phrase incorrectly earlier. So what that process is really, so sorry, I'm myself now. The process of adding all the integers that up a number is called theosophical reduction. So Pythagoras was all about this. The Tetractys was all about this. His special triangle. So if you take the 4, and 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the digits that become 4, you get 10. They add up to 10. 10 is a 1. So if you do this with 7, you go 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7. It equals 28. 2 plus 8 is a 10. There's your 1 again. If you can, if you continue down the line, actually, so obviously, so you have 1 does that. 1 is 1. 4 becomes 1 with this theosophical reduction. 7 becomes a 1. 10 is 1. And if you keep going, it actually continues for ad infinitum. Every 3 numbers in the number line to infinity becomes 1. I call this the regenerating trinity. What we call numbers are an endlessly regenerating trinity. So basically, when you're counting, you could say that you're counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 6, 1, and 1, 11, 12, 1, 14, 15, 1, 17, 18, 1, 20, 21, 1. Because 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, all reduced to 1. Ad infinitum, it never ends through this process. Every third number in the number line reduces to 1. Every third number returns to oneness and kicks off the Trinity
it's
again.
Like a chain link.
Kind of wild.
Continuous genetic chain information memory.
Yeah. It's pretty fun math. So I look at them like I definitely look at the 174, 417, and 741, those 3 Solfeggio numbers that use those 3 digits as basically, if we're going to give them an esoteric correlation, it's the feeling of wholeness, oneness, monad, and that applies to the 4 and the 7 as much as the number 1. That's really cool.
Wow.
And so there's definitely, this set of numbers is special just based on that alone. Did whoever came up with this, I have no idea who first put these numbers together this way. I think this is just intuitive human knowledge that maybe crops up again now and again. I didn't find this anywhere in terms of an explanation for Solfeggio, though. This is what I kind of think is going on, because no matter what, you're reducing back down to a 3 if you combine 3 numbers that all reduce to 1. It's weird, but the best way I can explain this in simple terms is that we have endless numbers, 1 to infinity, 9,999, 1 to 9,999. But in a way, all of that is repeating the 9 integers, 1 through 9. And in a way, integers of 1 through 9 are actually just repeating 1, 2, 3. So there's the Trinity is this inherent, I think it's other than oneness itself, this Trinity is at the core and base. You can reduce everything down to it, or reducing is maybe the wrong word. Everything's built out of it. Trinity's everywhere.
It's like the roots, man, because this is ringing so much to music theory, and music theory is absolutely built off of this. I mean, this is the explanation, the true roots of music theory. This is exactly what it is. And this screen right here, when you look at, so there are 7 notes, 7 main whole notes in the scale, and whatever scale that is, and music notes go through A through G, which is the first 7 letters. And you need 3 notes to make a chord, and a chord is a perfect harmonized sound, and that's what in music theory makes a chord. You can't hold a G and an F sharp, and it's not a chord, right? Technically, it's a semitone, but you need the third one to make it a note. And so, yeah, this is blowing my mind, but it's also making a lot of sense. And I've never put these kind of 2 things together, but the patterns are there, and it's a cycle, a cyclic pattern. And that one right there would just show, it's just those must be that must be the perfect chord, jazz chord progression. I'm thinking is you do the 1 to the 4 to the 7, which would I guess if you, okay. And then you always go back to the 5th, the perfect 5th, which is I don't know. It's just blowing my mind, dude. It's blowing my mind. I'm mind blown. I gotta clean up my brains. Someone clean up my brains for me.
I feel like, if it's okay, we'll just take a little detour to looking at the how this concept was looked at in the occult world of the idea of the Yod-Heh Vav-Heh.
Oh,
the 4-letter name of God.
Mm-hmm. I like this.
So it's a little blurry, but you have here. Can you see what we got going on here?
Pentagrams, Solomonic magic.
No, these aren't pentagrams, dog.
Those aren't pentagrams. Those are 6-pointed.
Pentacles. Pentacles is what I meant to say. Pentacles.
That's not a pen. It's not.
No, they're
it's 6.
6, baby. It's the hex, baby.
Whenever wrap it in a circle.
Basically, I mean, I'm going to really condense this down, but this is an ancient diagram of the Yod-Heh Vav-Heh, where the Yod is, okay, so everyone's familiar with the 6-pointed star, the upward facing triangle and the downward facing triangle. The Yod would be, okay, so 3 of these and then a 4th that's just the positive triangle. This is an attempt to demonstrate what the building and the regenerating of the world is doing numerically. Why 22 is the master builder number, why a lot of ancient alphabets stopped at 22, maybe, allegedly. So if you were counting the first 6 points, the first 7 points of the first septenary of, Yod at the top here, you're making an upward facing triangle where 1, 2, 3 are the corners of the upward facing triangle. 4, 5, 6 are the corners of the downward facing triangle. And then 7 is in the middle, the point in the middle. And then on the Hey, the first Hey, the 7 becomes the top point of the upward facing triangle. And then the 8, 9 are the bottom corners. And then 10, 11, 12 make the downward facing triangle, 13 in the middle. And it goes on in this pattern where the Vav now begins with 13 as the top point, goes around the horn again, and 19 in the middle. So you're seeing are you seeing the very occult significance of some of the numbers that wind up in the middle? 7, 13, 19, and then the last Hey, the 4th Hey, is incomplete, because as you get to 21 and the 22nd number would be the beginning of the downward facing triangle, that actually becomes, according to the Pythagoreans, the 22 becomes the number 1 of the next cycle, the next world. The world is renovated and started over. So it's you can look at that as the symbolic of the great cycle of the great year. Looking at how in the tarot, the Fool card is either number 1 or either number 0 or number 22 or whatever. It's kind of the first card or the last card. I could be mixing it up numerically, but anyway, that's a little detour. That was not part of the plan to talk about, but I learned about that from Dylan Sicocio's book, July's End with Black Swans, which I also narrated as an audiobook. So go check that out.
Oh, nice.
It's a really, really good occult work of art on all kinds of awesome symbolic gravy that will totally upgrade your literacy in all these areas. If you go check it out, please do. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Do you want me to bring that back up? Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, cool. I like it. The one thing, it's really cool, and it's super fractal. It's explaining fractal, sacred geometry, the number and the cymatics and the resonance and the frequencies and all of the beautiful things, and the cosmic code, really, because that's what deep esoteric and occult knowledge is understanding these deep cosmic codes and the celestial cycles that happen. And once we're in tune with that, once we understand that, then we can start to, really get to grasp control. But the one thing about this, the way we went through all of these Star of Davids, and I brought up Pentacles earlier, in the Lesser Key of Solomon, he calls all of the shapes that are encircled within the magic circle that aren't just, they're 7-pointed stars, 8-pointed stars. He just calls them pentacles. So whatever. Okay,
Roman, try.
Okay, you know what?
How dare
Listen,
you?
Dan,
Stroke
listen.
ego.
So,
Stroke ego. Stroke
hey,
ego.
hey,
Sorry.
this is just
How
it's
dare you.
hitting home. It is hitting home. I just got done reading the books like a couple days ago, so I was really excited that you brought this up, actually. And the Star of David is super deep. David, David being Solomon's father and all these things.
Yeah, and so looking at this image, so you see how it stops at 22, and the stars of David's are actually 7-pointed because there's a point in the middle, and that encodes one of the most important transcendentals there ever was, which is pi. 22 divided by 7 gives you 3.14. It's it's the closest approximation to pi you can make out of whole numbers.
Man, and
now Pythagoreans were pretty into pi, I'd say.
pretty into pi. The one thing that about this that reminded me of, which we were talking about just the other day, is that 22. The reason why that last one isn't finished or started over is because the 22 is like the 13th sign, the 13th hidden sign in the zodiac. Everyone's like, there's supposed to be a 13th sign. It was removed. But it's almost like, no, that 13th sign is the hidden sign because it starts the next cycle on which the fractal begins to expand. That's what it reminds me of. The 22 is like the 13th
like an octave.
sign. Like an octave. So like Ophiuchus steps up to the next step. You've done the full motion of taking a step. Now you're walking up the stairs. That's what this reminds me of. The 13th hidden sign of the zodiac isn't supposed to be on there. It's that step, the hop up to the next octave. I fucking love that. That's kind of what it painted.
Yeah, and just like try to divide a circle into 12 sections, and then try to divide a circle into 13 sections. Tell me how long it takes for each one. There's a really obvious, simple reason why you have 12 signs in the zodiac and not 13. I do not consider Ophiuchus to be like, they kept it from us. I mean, all the constellations are important and they encode a lot of great things to know. And, that's a whole nother story, but yeah, I think it's very, very reasonable to have 12 signs of your zodiac. And for the 13th step to either be the middle, like you in the center, 12 around 1, or to be your next octave, like you said, either or kind of both fit. But yeah, let's continue walking through the Solfeggio. I'm really enjoying the detours, though. Thanks for indulging. We want to look at the.
It goes into the tribe of Dan too, and how they're the 13th tribe of Israel, and how the 12 tribes relate to the zodiac, and the 13th tribe, which is Dan, is also could be considered Ophiuchus, and how I usually think they're outside of the perimeter, but if you look at that, then they would be within it. And they're judging all the rest.
They're the central wheel. They're the axis, baby.
That goes deep, man. That goes deep. Beautiful.
So we're going to look now at the 258 as the next step of our regenerating trinity. So that's going to cover off the tones that are 852, 528, and 285. I almost forgot the 285, like which one it was, because I never use it. But these numbers, in my opinion, are like representative of the divine union of two sets of oneness as the 6, meaning like a 3, which is a full being, a trinity, and a 3 coming together equals 6. And maybe that's why 6 sounds like sex. 2 + 5 + 8 = 15, which equals 6, if that wasn't evident. So these digits, I think, this is just my opinion, having used them, are like the balancing point or the mirroring of the wholeness of the one, like mother and father, God and goddess, that type of ideal, male and female. And, thinking about it now as well, the 528 and the not 741, the 852, and especially like, okay, so if you were correlating the 528 to the solar plexus, as I like to use it, most of the organs that region governs, not all, but a lot of them. I'm really thinking about the like lungs and the kidneys and things in the chest. There's a lot of mirroring, like one on the left, one on the right. And the 852 being your third eye is also, your brain has a left and right side, a male and female side. You know, there could be something to that. If you're correlating the 285 to like the legs or the ankles or the knees, there's a left leg and a right leg. So, you know, I'm not saying that that's like a 100% lock type of correlation, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I dig it, man.
2 is the one mirroring itself. It's the monad becoming the duad.
Yeah.
5 is the balancing point between 1 through 9. Like, look at the symbol of phi in the Greek alphabet. It's a circle with a line through the middle, and it's the root of our word 5. The phi ratio is found throughout how nature builds things, how nature generates things. So that's interesting as well. And then 8, the infinity symbol turned sideways, is 2 circles side by side.
I love it.
It is like,
holy shit.
You know, it's a circle, it's a monad. So I think this 258 is telling us something about the it's also 8 is 2 of the number 4, you know, 2 stabilities together. So I think this 258 is telling us something about the relationship of like mirroring. And one way you might use solfeggio tones for that are 258 or 528 or 852. I'm sorry, 285 is the right one. Anyway, one way that you would use those maybe would be to help you bring balance between your left and right side, or your masculine, feminine, your yin and yang.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to do it.
Dude, you're totally. That's absolutely. I mean, like, I love the 8 too, because the way you draw a circle, you have to have, I mean, it's 2 of 4, right? It's completely the Hermetic number. 8 is like, there's your reason why it's like Eastern mystic, or like the 8-legged horse of Odin, you know, right? Like 8 is infinity for a reason, because 1, 2, 3, 4 being the 4 winds or what have you. That's how you draw a circle. And then you put those 2 circles together and you have that perfect Vesca Pisces, man. And yeah, everything in this is about balance. This is balance. 258, 852, 528, it has to be the balancing. And it's funny that it's right in the middle of the 3 different triads that are there. It totally, I love it. I love breaking down the numbers like this, dude. It's such a perfect cipher, and it's so ancient, so simple, but like so simply mind-blowing, dude. Oh my goodness.
It's on our hands. You know, we got the digits on our hands. I'll continue forward here. You know, get us to this infographic. We're kind of long in the recording here, so I'll try to maybe not rush, but like get us there. So finally we reach the 3, 6, and 9, the birth of the divine child. 2 trinities have come together, 3 plus 3 to make 6, or sex, and they generate the third trinity of 9, the divine child. 3 plus 6 plus 9 equals 18. 18 is 1 plus 8, which equals 9. 18 is the idea of when the child has just like become an adult. 9 is a trinity of trinities, mother, father, child. So they represent 3, 6, and 9, the culmination of the generative principle. A child gestates in the womb for 9 months. There's something there for sure. So, you know, that's what I think the basics is here symbolically. Moving forward, we can also find some other things encoded in the word solfeggio, like soul, fe, egg, io, and there's a lot more, but just for a little bit, soul, S-O-L, is the soul, your soul, and also the sun, S-U-N, or son, S-O-N, of God. Soul is the alone one, solo, solus. And there's also Fae. So there's one right there. Fae, I don't know a lot about Fae as a word, but, you know, there's the Fae folk, the other side of our reality, potentially going back. So if we're going from like a 3, 6, 9 idea here, soul being the 3 or the 1, the monad, Fae being the other side, the mirror world, the Mary, the feminine, the mother, you know, the Fae folk. And then egg, it also Fae means trust in a lot of languages, like Latin. I don't know what else to say about that, but egg is the symbol of generation. It's where the child is at. It's the created universe. Solfeggio egg.
Pope hat.
And when you egg somebody on, it could mean to encourage them. And then you have the IO in Solfeggio. IO or Yo is 10. It's also one of the names of God in the ancient world. Yo, Ya, Yao, one of the many names, and was represented as a 1 and a 0 or an I and an O, iota, omicron, in many languages and many versions of symbolism. Io, Yo is God. And that's because it's the phallus and yoni, the pole and the hole, the generative organs of biology. And like I said, like words such as Yah, you, Jew, Jehovah, these are derivatives of not just Yo, but the number 10. And there's so much more in that. The sun, SUN/SON of God, being represented by 10. It's why you get the cross or the X on your head at Ash Wednesday if you're a Catholic. That's actually the number 10.
The fly.
People.
The Jotun.
Yeah.
The Jotun.
And the Tav is also a similar version of that. Thor's hammer. A lot of stuff with the 10. It goes on. We could unpack that in future conversations maybe. And I just, there's just, I want to skip forward though, because I made this infographic a little maybe too meaty. And I want to look at the addition and subtraction of the 369 pattern that endlessly repeats in Solfeggio.
Yes.
What I find interesting about this is every number in the sequence creates a 3 when subtracted from when the previous number is subtracted from it. Looks like I have a typo there. And the result is reduced through addition. So if you take the 963 and then the one right under that, 852 minus 963 minus 852, you get 111. 852 minus 741, you get 111. And so this goes on. You're either going to get through this subtraction, you're either going to get 111 or 102 or 21. But either way, it's always a 3. One step to the next step is always a differential of 3 when you reduce. And then in the same sense, if you add any two tangential Solfeggio numbers, you either get a 3, 6, or 9 when you apply that same additive reduction to the resulting sum. So this gets very mathy, and we won't go over it too hard, other than to say that if you look at the reduced sum of all the Solfeggio numbers from 174 plus 285 all the way till you get to 852 plus 963, the pattern that you get is 963, 963, 96. So that goes on. So no matter how you add or subtract any Solfeggio numbers, the result will always return to 3, 6, and 9, to put it simple. And if you continue this exploration, you're subtracting numbers that are two steps away instead of 1, like 963 minus 741, you get 222. 639 minus 417, you get 222. 369 minus 174, you get 222. Those are all 6s. And if you go a further step, so you're doing 963 minus 639, you get 324, which is a 9. And if you do that again on the next rung down, you get a 324 again and a 324 again. So no matter how you slice it, adding and subtracting any of these two numbers together gives you 3 6s and 9s forever and ever. Amen. So that to me there's some magic in that sequence.
Yes, man.
There's something truly special about that. And you can kind of look at that as you can look at the rows and columns on a 3x3 grid and do the same thing. If you're adding 3 Solfeggio numbers that are in a row or column together, it's always giving you a 9. So you could go on with that. Additions and subtractions. I've even played with multiplications ad infinitum. It's 3, 6, and 9 forever and ever. There's the pattern. So I think it's likely that the coherence of this number sequence truly does activate the natural regenerative potential of the body, because this is the pattern of nature itself in terms of generation. This is the generative principle in the language of nature that we've abstractified into glyphs and symbols. But this is electricity. This is life force. This is what life force does.
Yes, man.
So
you mind
I
going
definitely
back
encourage
up
people
to
to
the
play with those
ad-
numbers. And
Do you mind going back up to the ad infinitum, just scrolling up just a little bit? I need to take a screenshot.
okay,
You
do you
said
want
it's
the grid, or do you
regeneration
want
and
this part?
Right there. Perfect.
Mhm.
Right there. Yes.
So I
So
thought it
it's
would
the
be fun here to also play a couple of them. Like I mentioned, these subtractive and additive differentials and sums that made 1 1 1s and 2 2 2s, and I think that's really cool. And I thought it might be fun to play some forks at the same time as each other, so everyone can maybe feel
Yes.
how these playing off of each other feels, because it's pretty cool. And certain ones have a better, stronger feeling together than others, in my opinion. So I'm going to do I'm going to do 417 and 528 together, and then I'm going to do another set of 3 of them at the same time, just so you guys can hear that. I think 528 and
hold up.
417 sound great together.
Hold
Dan.
on for a second.
Was
You
that-
said that the 369, they're representative of mother, father, child.
Yeah, well, 3 being the father, 6 being the mother, 9 being the child. This is just my idea.
and then
I'm not
that's,
saying this is gospel.
No, but that's regeneration, and that's also a generation. Each mother and child is a new generation. Do you think, is that where we got the word generation from? Is from this pattern?
Well, where the word generation comes from is another story that I wouldn't be able to answer. But like the idea of it, the idea of it is, yeah, like back when I showed you those, I showed you that Yod Hey Vav Hey, right?
Yeah.
How the 22 becomes the 1 of the next cycle. That's
Yeah.
just like your son becomes the father. The father is the son,
Yeah.
whenever he has his children. This is what nature does. It's like this crazy life just goes on. I think the meaning of life is life, baby. I think the point of life is to go on.
Mhm.
I think existence is here to exist, and we doing it.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think it's beautiful.
The point of life is life.
Exactly. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that.
Mhm. Well, this
Just do the
presentation
thing. It's
itself
awesome. Just
shows us,
living, LIVIN.
bro, you've broken this down beautifully, and I think you do a great job of describing this. And like, like this just shows us that like if once you break down everything within, that 10 digit, everything through 9, when you break it all down and you put it like this, and then you put tones and frequencies onto it, like it just shows us the interconnectedness of everything, about how everything can transmute into everything else, and it goes through these different cycles as you work your way through these patterns. And like this really is a beautiful reminder of how simple things are. I really, really, really appreciate that presentation and the way you flow through that, man.
Oh, thanks, dude. I like to visit this material, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it in depth and really showcase the ideas here. And the conversation has given me a lot of glimpses at further directions I can take the investigation, which I appreciate too. So yeah, it would be fun we're probably near the end here, but it'd be fun to play some of these combinations. So when I play this 417 and 528 together, I want you to like feel into your dantian, like your belly and the middle of your chest together, and send energy to this part of you. Does that sound good? Yeah, so 417 and 528 sound really good together. Something special about that combination. Now I'm going to play.
I feel great, dude.
And now I'm going to play a couple of. I'm going to play 741. No, I'm going to play 639, 852, and 963. Those ones go awesome together. So it's like heart, third eye, crown. And just, sit back and enjoy this. It's a little tricky to do on a Zoom. But hopefully that came through a little bit. Those three it's like music, the simplest, most beautiful music. I'm gonna do them all one more time.
Makes me think of choirs.
Yeah, man.
The importance of
harmony,
community. Yeah.
Feels good, man.
Like which makes me
pass it over here.
Think of like my mom used to be into, and she still is, but for a long time it took me a while to like get into like being like, okay, like I'll give numerology a try. Like, how can you put this complex person down to one singular number and say that this person resonates with this one number and has that archetype of that one number. But after kind of going through like this presentation with you and like this stuff, it kind of makes you see the significance of resonating with that one number, because once you start to dignify that number that resonates with you, that tone that resonates with you, it shows you the importance you play when you pair with other people, when you start to resonate with other people. And like, you are beautiful on your own. Like, each one of those forks is great on its own, but when you pair them together, it really, like, to me, it spoke to community. It like showed me the importance of like how great it is to come together and to all sing our voices and our thoughts and opinions and resonate together, like super, like this.
3 is a magic number.
Wow. Oh yeah. Jelly in my bones over here, man. I feel like we got a full session. We just got a free session, Dan. Chance, what's your Venmo, dude? I feel like
I do have free. I've got
$1
some free tunings. I've got at least 1 or 2 out there that if people dig around on my channel or send me an email and ask for it, I can share. I have done, group tunings before. I'm probably will again somewhere in December, actually.
Oh, sweet.
So I hope that people
gifts.
follow my channel and check that out. Or, yeah. And, if people also, interesting thing too is how this transcends space and time, that when people do sessions with me, I send them the recording. It doesn't even matter how well the recording captures the tones. It's still, people say anyway, is effective to replay if they need to like, rebalance energy that gets off. That is something we worked on in the session. I don't know, but I'm happy to be of service in whatever way I can. And this is the method that most jumped out to me and felt like what I was called for. And it's also more important to me to see more people pick up the tuning forks and use them to learn how to make their body and themselves the instrument, like we talked about with the dowsing rods, becoming the dowsing rods. I want more than me tuning a lot of people. I would rather there was a lot of people tuning a lot of people. That's really what I want. So I hope this conversation maybe gets people exploring with tuning forks. There's not really a wrong way to do it unless you're Roman and you burn down your neighbor's house. And other than that, it's pretty safe.
See, I didn't want to tell that story on the air, but like I had already kind of told it before. So
I'm glad you did, dude. It's like really making me wonder what all is possible.
I think
Dude,
anything. I think it's
just,
deep
these
occult.
things happen. You didn't know how
He's a
powerful
fucking
you were.
wizard.
It's all good.
But we're all
You're
wizards,
powerful.
and this
You're a
is
powerful
all.
dude,
This
man.
is all. This is all like. This is all the. I think right here. I think everything we just talked about tonight is literally roots of the absolute optimized occult powers. I really do. I think this is what the ancient Masons were really tapping into, like this sacred numerology that Pythagoras
It's the
explained.
universal code.
I think so. I really think so.
Yeah.
So let us resonate on this and like bond together, and like we are going to, because our community of podcasts and everything, like we're already cracking major codes. Like we are doing some
Like
crazy
the three of
great
us.
things. Like the three of us right now. Like we're all touching, like it kind of like I'm almost grazing Chance's face here, you know, like it's insane. It's insane. But yeah, so we're on our way out here. Dan, what do you got to say to this fine gentleman who came and blessed us this evening?
Yes, thank you, Chance. It's been a while since I've talked to you last, so it's great to see you again and have a conversation with you, buddy. Yeah, dude, when we get into numbers and everything and how they break down, it evident that it just shows you what nature is operating on, and by tapping into those, you can the magicians of the world were also tapping into those things to use nature to their benefit. I think some people even today are still doing those same things, even for nefarious reasons or good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you can do it either way, and we talked about that too with your intention. Where do you set your attention at to get your desires out of using these codes? So it's a very powerful tool. I think that's why it's only for the secret societies, because in the hands of many, it could be an absolute fucking traumatic type of thing for the world if everybody's fucking around with tuning forks. Right, Roman?
You know, as funny as that story is, it would take a lot to convince me that it's actually risky to play with tuning forks. I mean, I imagine what happened was Romy was sitting in his bathtub like, you know, fuck those neighbors. I'm just kidding, man.
No,
but really though, I think that it's fair. Like it's very much more magical world, and not like the more that I deeply go into all the things, the more I see that most of the things to be afraid of or worried about, or like that the theys could do, or that the masses could fuck up, the more I go into it, the more I see that like that's really all hype. That the majority, I'm not saying that there's never wrongdoers in the world, but to me, like I'm starting to see that, of course, with the divine order and harmony of this number pattern that we talked about today, revealing to anybody with the eyes to see and the ears to hear that this is a creation or a construct or in some way divinely ordered, and not just random, pointless chaos, then, you know, I think that we also have to, I think the logical place to go from there is to realize that everything is part of that order. Everything is part of, you could say, God's plan, if you want to use those words. That the most satanic, for lack of a better label, the most satanic perspective is the one that says, I shouldn't be here. This should never have happened to me. I'm a victim of these circumstances. Like victim mentality. I learned this from Owen Benjamin on one of his streams just today. Like he put it so well. And I was like, that's it. That resonates so well, that as soon as you enter into the contract of victim consciousness, in any way, that is the opposite of, you know, being
so
saved
toxic.
or being Christian or being good. Like,
it feels
dude,
gross.
Victim consciousness is Satanism. You know, it's the same thing.
Oh God, it's so real.
Yeah. So I'm not accusing Dan of that. I'm just, or anything from what you just said. I just want to like really leave people with that message that, you know, don't worry about what the theys are doing. Don't worry about what could go wrong. I mean, be rational. If your body gives you fear signals, then like hold up and try to figure that out, and don't just be reckless. But overall, like, the wrong thing can't happen to you.
Yeah.
Even your experiences that were traumatic or put, you know, off balance energy in your field that could be harmonized, all that, like even the worst thing that ever happened to you, it also is an opportunity to help other people that have had something similar happen to them. If you work through it and find your wholeness that you never lost, that you just sort of hid from yourself. And there's nothing but the good. There's nothing but light. There's nothing but love and truth, and everything else is fiction. We can get really influenced by the fiction. We can really believe it. We can suspend our disbelief. And, you know, I'm not like people will get upset about this perspective and be like, how dare you say that it's divine order when like the predator shreds the prey, or like that someone got raped. But at the end of the day, I don't think that there's anything but free will. And maybe that free will extends beyond our ability to perceive where we're at in this current life, in this incarnation. But at some level, because the life force energy of all of us is indivisible and one, then the divine will and the divine order was, you know, your free will is the will of creation. And it doesn't mean it's not justification to be a shithead or anything. You know, sinful behavior, so to speak, is its own punishment, as going against things, doing things the way nature would do them. You will have consequences that are pretty immediate. You know, like it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Let's all crush and have an awesome time and not be victims.
Yeah, when I said that, I didn't mean like, you know, reptilians are ruining the world and controlling the world through codes and blah, blah, blah. I just meant like individuals are able to use these.
There might even be reptilians out there, you know, but like, God love them.
Just one.
I think a lot of it is the consistency, man. Like consistency, if like no matter what, like these, like tapping into a pathway, like a resonant pathway, a tonal frequency, whatever, you have to be consistent with it, because even if you get hit with it for a second, your body transmutes it and then you're back on the path that you're already on. But I think what it is like they need to be so consistently negative. They need to install so many of these things consistently, hence media and other forms of like control is like a super consistent, like when someone sells you something, like unfortunately worked telemarketing, they're like, you don't get off that call until you sell that. And so you have to be constant until the person breaks down and they say, I'll take it, whatever. And then they're now the victim of your sales. So like this whole victim responsibility actually is a huge thing. But what I think it is like, it's not the right way. It is not. I do think this whole free will conversation is very, very introspective, very deep, especially as an outro segue. But what I think a lot of the negative, shadowy things are, myself personally, is just like they have such large amount of time and free responsibility that they're able to penetrate us with constant negatives, though there are constant positives. But the negatives, just like it's so much easier to see the shadows sometimes, because it's that opposition to the light there. So you see it, and then your eyes just keep going to the shadowy things. And yeah, it's an incredibly deep construct, and I just had to get my little 2 cents in there about the consistency thing of the pathways, man.
I'll take it. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys, too. I really had fun. I would love to come back anytime. Well, I'm sure we'll continue to collaborate in different ways.
For sure, man. For sure. Thank you again, Chance.
Yes.
Plug your shit, man.
Oh, yeah. Innerverse Podcast.com. And now there's Innerverse Merch.com. I will be adding to that as I go.
Nice.
My YouTube or my Rockfin are a good way to keep up with the show, but the podcast is on anything that podcasts are on. And yeah, like there's just so much gravy on there. It's hard to get into, but I'm really proud of the collaborations I've done with my buddy Dylan Sicosio, and also a pretty recent episode called Heaven is the Sky about the celestial code and
nice.
you know, the language of the stars. You know, I'm starting to kind of break into on my own channel, maybe doing more solo presentations of my own research, and I'm enjoying that a lot. So please come follow my shit. There's like, it's my life's work. I love it. I think you'll love it too.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Of course, brother.
And Fire Tribe, thank you for listening. And if you're not down with that, wake up.